Sure shot, baby!
Good day, everyone. We're here for the fifth episode of the DVD show. So, for this day, we have the Dean Quinito Henson. We're so blessed to have him to share his insights and thoughts about current sporting events and issues surrounding the sporting world locally and internationally as well. But we'll also focus more on the PBA and the UAAP storylines for these past few weeks. So to start off, sir, how are you doing? Especially now it's the PBA off season and there's no UAAP. So how does your day go normally now?
Mm, Times are very challenging. This pandemic has really caught us off guard. Nobody anticipated something like this would happen, but I guess we've had to live with it. It's been going on now for the last 10 months or so. We're hoping that maybe with the rollout of the vaccine, things would normalize a little bit and maybe things can get back to how they were before sooner than later. We know that the Tokyo Olympics, come hell or high water, will push through. I was on an online meeting this morning, just this morning,
Yeah.
with the Tokyo 2020 sports director, Mikako Kotani, who
Yeah.
confirmed that the Olympics will push through and that the torch relay will start March 25. The first editions of the playbooks will be released in April, which means the different national Olympic committees participating in the Olympics will be getting hard copies of what to expect in the Olympics, the events, the results of the testing events, and the officials who will be coming and the different protocols that will be imposed during the Olympics. Yeah.
So how confident are you that there won't be a lot of like because there might be positive cases then or there might be some hurdles that they'll need to overcome. So how confident are you that they'd be able to overcome it despite all the circumstances that may happen?
It's very difficult to make any guarantees at this stage because we're fighting an invisible enemy. This virus can hit you in so many ways. It's really, really extremely difficult to make any sort of guarantee. But I think what the Tokyo Olympic organizers have assured the general public is that countermeasures against COVID-19 are underway to make the Olympics safe and secure for everyone. There will be protocols observed both before going to Tokyo and upon arriving in Tokyo and entering the Olympic village or the Olympic district. So I think with those protocols in place, with different health and safety standards to be applied, I think we can be fairly confident that things will be okay. I think if there will be any positive cases in the course of the Olympics, there will be immediate isolation being done and protocols to be made to make sure that there will be no spread if in case there are any positive cases. So we're all hoping. The world needs sports. I think what Miss Kotani said today was the power of sports will change the world in the future.
True.
And we're hoping that if the Tokyo Olympics move on, as everyone expects, the Olympics will proceed, then this could be a guiding light, something like an opening for us to say that we can beat this virus. And with sports being such a unifying element for the entire world, I think it'll be a big rush of hope for everyone.
Yeah. So in connection to the Olympics, we have some athletes that are gonna represent the Philippines. I believe in the Olympics and across various sports. So, which are some of the athletes that that you believe the fans and the Filipinos should look forward to, or if maybe you've
Well,
spoken to them also these past few
yes.
days?
You know, first of all, I have to say thank you very much, Diego, for inviting me. I didn't get a chance to say that earlier.
Yeah, it's okay.
This is a good opportunity for me to be able to interact with someone from my alma mater, and
Yeah,
I'm very happy that you've given me this opportunity.
thank you so
Now,
much.
onto your question,
Yeah,
about the Olympics. Well, right now, the Philippines has qualified only 4 athletes. So that would be Kaloy Yulo of gymnastics, and then we have EJ Obiena, who's our pole vaulter, and then we have 2 boxers, Yumir Marshall and Irish Magno. Irish Magno, by the way, will make history because she will be the first female boxer ever to represent the country at the Olympics. So we have only 4 qualified athletes at the moment, but I'm expecting that we will have anywhere between 15 to 20.
yeah,
You know, I'd like to be optimistic. I think Hidilyn Diaz for weightlifting
mm-hmm.
will surely make it.
Mm-hmm.
I think our skateboarder, Margie Didal, should also be able to make it. We've got high hopes that at least one of our karate um, team hopefuls will make it, and that would be maybe Juna Chuki, who is a Filipina Japanese karateka. We're not going to have any karate players in kata, which is form. Everyone will be in the kumite category, which is sparring. I know that Jamie Lim, who's the daughter of
Yeah,
Samboy Lim,
yeah,
the PBA legend,
yeah,
is also in line. So we're hoping that Jamie can also make it. There will be 6 Filipino and Filipina karatekas who will be participating in the world qualifiers in Paris in June, hoping to be able to book Olympic tickets. Let's see, for golf, we have Yuka Saso and
yeah,
Bianca Pagtanganan. I
yeah.
think they're in line to be able to represent our country in golf. And let's see, for boxing, there will be qualifiers coming either in May or in June. We still don't know where. The original host city was Paris. We don't know whether Paris will continue to be the venue for the Olympic boxing qualifiers, but I'm hoping that we can bring in maybe at least 2 more. Nesty
Hopefully,
Patesio
yeah,
is the world featherweight champion who didn't make it through the qualifiers out of Asia Pacific, but maybe in the world qualifiers she'll be able to book a ticket. So that would be one. And then the other could be, I don't know, maybe Carlo Paalam, who will be fighting in the flyweight division, might also be able to make it. There are some hopefuls also. You'll never know whether they can make it. John Marvin,
yeah,
who is a Filipino British in the light heavyweight division, might have a chance. Maybe a Charlie Suarez might be able to book a ticket out of the featherweight division. Suarez is already a pro,
yeah.
but you know, if he makes it to the qualifiers and goes far, maybe we can do it. Maybe we can get Charlie Suarez another shot at the Olympics because of his experience and his technical know-how and his confidence level. So all of those athletes have a good chance. I think for judo, Kiyomi Watanabe has a big chance, and you know, there's a lot of hope and confidence and faith that some of our Filipino Japanese athletes might be able to make it. So Kiyomi would be one, Yuka Saso is another, and Juna Chuki, that's 3 Filipino Japanese athletes who may be able to make it to Tokyo. And you know, for Tokyo, that'll be a great thing because you know, it's not very often that you get both a Filipino and a Japanese to be competing in the Olympics in Tokyo at that. No? So let's see, other sports. Philippines will be entering the qualifiers for 3-on-3 basketball,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, you know, I don't see
Mm-hmm.
any glimmer of hope. that our 3-on-3 team will make it, considering the level of competition that the other countries will be bringing to the table. Let's see, other sports. Surfing, possible we could do a wild card for surfing, because we made waves, pardon the pun, in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games with Roger Kasugay actually being very courageous in saving an Indonesian surfer,
Yeah, I
and
remember.
he winning the gold medal in the end. So the problem is he competes in the longboard, and for the Olympics it's only shortboard. But maybe he can make the transition and make an adjustment, especially if the Philippines is able to get a wild card or what they call a tripartite committee invitation for surfing, and that would also be good. So if you tally all the athletes, well, let's not forget there could be a candidate or a hopeful in cycling as well. Danica Luwag, who's a BMX cyclist, silver medalist in the 2019 Southeast Asian Games, but gold medalist in the 2013 Southeast Asian Games, and a gold medalist in the 2014 Asian Games in BMX cycling, might also make it. He represented the country in the 2012 London Olympics, so he has a shot, as well as a few other cyclists. So maybe 15 to 20 Filipino athletes in the Tokyo Olympics. I think that's something that's doable.
Yeah, I really agree. And if they excel and we really have a lot of athletes, it's going to improve our Philippine sport. Like, it's not only going to be basketball and boxing and volleyball, it's going to be the other sports as well. So if they excel, we're going to get noticed also in these other sports, even if it's not popular here yet in the country. Yeah. So,
yeah, I'm certainly hoping that we get a lot more representatives for the Philippines. And as you mentioned, the more Philippine representation there will be in different sports, the more mileage the country will get, because the Olympics will be the first major international event to come out of this pandemic, and the athletes who will be competing in Tokyo will make history, one way or the other. Whether they make it to the podium or not, they will be making history, and the world will certainly be watching.
I agree. I agree. So one of your most dedicated stuff as a writer and as a reporter is the UAAP. As I see you always in the DLSU games, even if it's preseason, fail oil only, or
Mhm.
PCCL, you're always there supporting. So with the UAAP, they also canceled their season for season 83, but for 84, there's still some hope on it having on the season pushing through on August or September. So what's your outlook also on the local scene about UAAP pushing through? Do you think it's attainable or not really?
Well, first, what must happen is the CHED will have to come up with guidelines to restart individual drill workouts. Those guidelines can only be approved by the IATF. So before CHED is able to roll out the guidelines for the different schools to follow, IATF must approve. And since, I would say, October of last year, CHED already came out with guidelines. There was feedback from the IATF to improve on the guidelines. CHED has come back to the IATF with an improvement, particularly in re-engineering facilities in school campuses, to take care of safety and healthy protocols. But to this day, there has been no approval from IATF. And we're just talking of individual workouts. So I'm thinking that if the IATF is struggling to approve even individual workouts, it will be more of a challenge and a struggle to approve body contact drills, or in basketball terms, scrimmages.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that's hard to approve, what more actual competitions?
Yeah.
I understand the Education Secretary Briones
Yeah.
has mentioned that the priority for schools is naturally academics. sports
Sorry.
is not a priority.
Yeah.
We do know, of course, the importance and the value of sports in schools. But if you were to rank it in terms of a priority as vis-a-vis academics, it will be taking a secondary role. And that's normal. The schools are there for academics and sports will come in next. I can understand why there is a hesitation from the IITF to approve the CHED guidelines, because the IITF has approved sports only on a professional level. There is a government concern that this coronavirus epidemic or pandemic has not been licked. It's still there. It's still there. So we want to be extra careful. We do not want to expose young kids, young adults to unnecessary exposure or unnecessary infection by having active participation in sports. So I can understand where the IATF is coming from. And I can also understand why CHED and the Department of Education are not really pushing it because of these conditions. So I am informed that the UAAP Board of Trustees will be meeting next month in February to discuss what are the possible scenarios as to when to restart our season. The season 83 has been canceled. My understanding is the next season, season 84, will not be called season 84. It will still be called season 83.
Okay.
And LaSalle will still be the host
Yeah.
of the next UAP season. Under the circumstances, one of the possible scenarios is that the UAAP will not restart until the first quarter of 2021. That is a very possible scenario. Not to preempt any decisions to be made by the UAAP Board of Trustees, I'm saying that that is one scenario that would be certainly considered, to delay the opening of the season to the first quarter, January, February of 2022.
2022.
And
okay.
yeah, so that means the UAP basketball games will not have, if that happens, will not have been held for 2 straight years,
Yeah.
because we didn't have it in 2020. And if it happens in January of 2022, that means we will not have it also in 2021.
Exactly.
That's a
yeah.
2-year wait.
Yeah.
That's a 2-year wait. And I feel very, very bad for our graduating players.
Exactly.
And I'm
yeah.
talking about our basketball players.
Yeah.
If again, no, if, and I don't want to preempt the UAP board, if the games are restarted in January of 2022, that means our graduating seniors who would have played their last year in 2020 and will not be able to play in 2021 will have missed 2 opportunities to turn pro, to join the PBA draft. And I think that would be asking too much from our graduating seniors to sacrifice another year of waiting. And at the same, having said that, you still don't know whether 2022 will happen.
Exactly.
In the same way, we can't be sure whether 2021 will happen. So the management and the coaching staff of the De La Salle University seniors men basketball team have gotten together, and this only happened yesterday, and we have all agreed, as I am a big supporter of our basketball team.
Yes.
I'm also part of our management team.
Yes.
And so we have all agreed that we will leave it up to our graduating seniors to decide whether or not to join the coming PBA draft. If they miss the deadline for this coming draft, which is on January 27,
Yeah.
then that means they will be missing another chance to turn pro. And if they decide to play their last year for LaSalle and the games will not start until 2022. They will again miss the PBA draft in 2022
Yeah.
because the season of the UAAP will still be ongoing then.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it would be too much to ask from them. So in effect, the coaching staff and the management have said to our players, you have our blessings if you wish to turn pro, because you're talking about your careers. You're talking about your playing years in your prime. And
Exactly.
we don't want to deprive our players the opportunity to turn pro in their prime. And we don't also want them to waste 2 years of their playing years by just sitting and waiting. So it's up to them. But what we're saying is that we've given our blessings and we've reached out to our players. Only 4 players are involved as far as the LaSalle team is concerned. So that would be Justin Baltazar,
Yes.
Aljun Melecio, Kurt Lohera, and Tyrus Hill.
Yeah.
There are only 4 graduating players for this coming season. Balti is now heavily involved with the Gilas program, and it's likely that he will apply for the draft, and he will also be most probably taken by Gilas in the special draft.
Yeah, if there is. Yeah.
I've spoken with Aljun Melecio, and he has decided, after consulting with the coaches, the management, and his family, particularly his parents, Aljun will be turning pro, and he will be applying for the draft this year. So Kurt Lohera, we have not heard from. Tyrus Hill has already submitted his papers to turn pro. So just to assure the LaSallian community, our coaching staff is well armed to face the challenges of the next season. Even if we lose Balti and Aljun, Kurt and Tai, rest assured that the Archers will still be very competitive in the next season, and we will challenge for the championship.
Yeah. How about your opinion on the new recruits? Because, for example, I think Evan Nelly, he played like 2 years in San Beda already. So how does that affect also his playing years, like Mark Nonoy also and Amadou and all those new recruits? Because they might also decide, I don't know, they might be saying they're wasting their playing years also with the team because wala namang games, pero they could also apply in 2022 or 2021.
Well, there are certain restrictions as far as the PBA draft is concerned. So you will have to be 22 years old, and if you finished your college education before 22, then you're eligible. But if you have playing years left, more than one, most likely you won't want to turn pro prematurely. You want to be ripe for the pros, and you want to play. If you have 2 more playing years, for instance, you want to play out those years. Not only because you want to enjoy college life, but you also want to earn your education, your degree, and you want to make sure that before turning pro, you will have had the experience of playing high-level competitive basketball. I think, for instance, if a player like Evan, who is an outstanding potential,
Yeah.
and a player like Mark Nonoy
Yeah.
and Deo Kwahai, all those guys are potential great players. But they also know that they need a couple of more years playing in the UAAP to be able to say they're ready for the pros. So we have LaSalle has restarted our virtual training for this year, and they're all in line. They're all joining, and I'm happy to say that we've got a good bunch of guys. Encho Serrano is in the team. We've got players who are in residence who, because of these many years of waiting, may be able to play already. Policarpio, Raven Cortez. We've got a good group of guys. Yeah, we've got a good group of guys, and keeping our fingers crossed. Everybody's excited. Everybody's hopeful and optimistic that when the UAP season restarts, LaSalle will be in there fighting.
So the team's confident, like the team's reacting well, even if Aljun and Balti, they might not play anymore. So they need new star players and new go-to guys. So through the virtual meetings, the team is responding well naman with they need to have a added responsibility when the season starts anytime.
Well, our new coach, Derek Pumaren, has been conducting these virtual meetings, and he reports that it's a high level of morale. It's a high level of fighting spirit and optimism and confidence. We're all feeling sad that Aljun and Balti, Kurt and Tai may not be able to play their last years with us because they were all hoping to, go out with a bang and, hoping to bring another championship to LaSalle. But we also understand the situation. We don't want to hold them back. They have their lives to live. I think for talents like them, the opportunities to grow themselves in the sport of basketball are waiting for them. They're laid out on the table, and we don't want to deprive them of taking advantage of these opportunities. I think Aljun, for instance, wherever he lands in the PBA, I'm telling you, he'll make an impact.
For sure. Yeah.
I won't name any names, but I know different point guards in different teams who will be outshone by Aljun once he steps on the court.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a player who fights with as much heart, with as much confidence, despite his shortness in size, as Aljun. He's going to be I feel he's going to be a major player in the PBA, and he's going to bring a lot of impact to the game when he's on the floor. And we don't want to deprive him of this opportunity. With Balti, I think his future is secure. I think in the last FIBA Asia Cup qualifying window, I mean, he was amazing. Put it that way, he was amazing.
Yeah.
And there's no doubt in my mind that there will be a spot for Balti in future national teams. So his career path is very clearly going towards the Gilas way. And I think Coach Tab Baldwin is very happy with Balti. I'm sure Coach Tab is also very happy that Balti may not play for LaSalle anymore.
Exactly.
That's just a joke.
Yeah.
But I'm also very thankful that we have someone like Coach Tab Baldwin taking care of our Gilas program.
Yeah, he's so good.
And he's done wonders for Ateneo, and I'm also very happy that a team like Ateneo has found its way back into championship form.
Yeah, I agree with the Melecio point because like Kib Montalvo, people thought that he wouldn't also excel that much in the PBA. Like he won't get that many minutes yet because he's kind of small and he's in TNT and the guards are stacked there. But he showed his heart and his defensive prowess. And it was obvious, like in the playoffs, he would defend the likes of Matthew Wright and all these players, and he was doing well. And we also have Andre Karakut applying for the draft. I talked to him for the previous episodes, also like 2 episodes ago, and I believe it also make an impact because with his pick and roll skills and his ability to shoot outside, we also have a lot of other LaSalle players applying for the draft. I believe around 5 to 6. So I think around 3 to 4 of them would really make an impact on any PBA team in this upcoming draft, even if it seems deep with also the Philam talent.
I think Santi Santillan will go very high in the draft. And you mentioned Andre. He didn't have D-League experience, but fortunately, because of the pandemic, D-League experience is no longer a requirement for the PBA draft. So I have also been talking with Andre, and you mentioned his attributes, and I just want to make a point of saying that Andre's maturity, leadership, and intelligence are his greatest assets. I think he reads the game very well.
Exactly.
He's a very smart player. And while he can shoot the long ball, while he can distribute the basketball, I think his all-around presence on the floor makes him a very special player. And I'm hoping that the PBA teams see that in him. He may not be a first-round pick, but I think he'll be a glowing second-round pick at best. And if the teams realize the importance of his leadership, his court vision, his intelligence, and his maturity, I think teams won't mind taking a chance on Andre. And I'm hoping that Andre enjoys a productive PBA career.
Yeah, there are also still a James Laput, even if he kind of didn't play well in the one season he played with Taft, and there's also Josh Toralba, I believe. So I think hopefully they could also make the PBA team because they have the
Yeah,
shooting and the size.
for sure.
respectively.
I think Malonzo, Jamie Malonzo, I think will be a first round pick
Yeah.
without a doubt. And he's not going to qualify as a special Gilas draft pick. So he's immediately playable in the PBA. So Malonzo will come in. And James Laput didn't do too much during the season with LaSalle, but in the short stint that he had in the PBA D-League, which also had to be cut short, I thought he showed a lot of promise.
Yeah.
I saw that he moved very well, and you can't go wrong with someone
6'9".
his height.
Yeah.
He's 6'9".
Yeah.
He I think he has good post-up moves, and he's a willing learner, and he's very coachable. And he may be a project at first, but if I were a PBA team, I'd take a chance at him too. Sometime down the line, you're gonna get a much improved James Laput playing for you. So if you treat him as a project in the first year, I think by the time he enters his second year in the PBA, he'll be ready to go. He'll be ready for action.
Yeah. He can be a defensive anchor to Junmar or Mo Tautua or Japet because he's so tall, and if he can learn how to be more intelligent with the pick and roll and not to switch, when to hedge and stuff like that, I think he can really also do well in the draft. And yeah, I forgot about Jamie because JB Balonzo, people are saying he might be the first overall pick. It's either him or Joshua Bunson. So I think it's really good, especially I saw Jamie play with Mighty Sports because after his mythical 5 stint in the UAAP for his one and done season, he played well in the Mighty Sports team in Dubai, even if there were 5 or 4 imports there. So he really showed that his skill set is exemplary.
I think Malonzo is just like Scottie Pippen. He reminds me so much of Pippen, not only because he looks like Scottie Pippen, but his physique. His physique is very Pippen-like, and the way he plays. I think he can be I think he will be a major factor in the PBA.
I agree. So for the LaSalle team, you said that you believe that they have a formidable lineup if there's a season in Jan 2022 around that time. But Ateneo has these recruits, and you've been saying that you've been joking around also in other shows that I've heard that you said Dwight Ramos should apply for the draft already. So we'll have an easier time beating Ateneo. But yeah, they have other stars also like Dave Ildefonso, then SJ Belangel. He was like a backup guard, but then in the finals, he showed that he could also be a starting caliber point guard with Matt Nieto gone. And for UP, they have CJ Cancino and they still have Ricci, I believe. And Javi has said that he's going to come back for season 84. And they have a new naturalized player in Dioff. So how do you see LaSalle stacking up with their lineup with guards and bigs compared to Ateneo and UP, which, I don't know, might maybe more talented for some people?
We can't tell which players are going to stay with their teams. I think Javi was was quoted that he wouldn't join the draft about 5 days ago. But my understanding was the other day he said he was going to join the draft already.
Yeah, I heard.
So
Yeah.
it looks like Javi and Juan will be joining the draft.
Oh, also
Juan,
Javi. Okay.
also Javi, yes.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
Juan took out a special guest license from
Yeah.
the Games and Amusements Board to play in the Pro League of 3-on-3 Chooks to Go. So I think he has lost his eligibility to play in the UAAP. So he'll turn pro. Ricci has 2 offers to play in the Japanese league. If he accepts those offers, then he will also lose his eligibility to play in the UAAP because the Japanese league is considered a pro league. Ricci is also doing 2 movies at the moment. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's if he will wait that long to
Okay.
play his last year with UP. I mean, I'm wishing Ricci the best, and I think UP could certainly use someone of his exceptional talents. But in the same way that we told Aljun and Balti that the decision is theirs to make, but we don't want to deprive them of their opportunities. I think Ricci might consider also turning pro and foregoing his last year of eligibility. But the decision is really up to him. So we don't know what the makeup of these teams will be. I'm hoping that for the UAAP, as a UAAP fan, and not just as a LaSalle supporter, I'm hoping that all these teams will be well armed for the future. No, we don't want to see a UAAP that's continuously dominated by 1, 2, or 3 teams. No, we want to have some semblance of parity so the fans can enjoy competition. Ateneo will always be well stacked because they have tremendous depth, especially with Dwight Ramos now in their lineup. I was just joking about Dwight going to the PBA draft, but I think he'd like to be able to show what he can do with Ateneo and repay Coach Tab for his confidence and his faith in bringing him over to the Philippines. But as far as LaSalle is concerned, we also have our secrets. So we're not ready to divulge those secrets. But if Ateneo has Ramos, maybe we'll have somebody else who might be able to match up with him. But those are all secrets
Behind the
that
scenes.
that can't be divulged at the moment. But all I'm saying is that we all want to be competitive. We want to play as hard as we can for our school and to make our supporters, alumni happy. And to the extent possible, we'd like to see the UAAP be a very, very competitive and enjoyable league to watch. We want 20,000 fans to pack the stadium for every game. And those fans won't be there if the games aren't competitive, if the teams aren't competitive. So when we're back to normal and there's no more pandemic, we want the fans, we want all of us to go back to the arenas and cheer for our schools.
Honestly, I didn't know that Javi was gonna apply for the draft, or he's heavily considering it, because I think there was an article recently that said he was gonna stay in UP for season 84. But then with the one naman, I know that I'm not sure if it's sure na that he lost his eligibility, but they said it was like a small chance that he'd play in the UAAP because he played in the 3-on-3 league where he got hurt when he sprained his ankle. So I think that's counted as a professional league, which makes him ineligible to play for UAAP anymore.
Well, a lot of the decisions will be based on whether the UAAP will restart this year or next year. Because if the UAAP board decides to restart in 2022, meaning to say 2021 will go down the drain just like 2020, it may be very difficult to ask these top talented players to sacrifice another year. And if you're in the school, or if you're part of the management or coaching staff of the school, you won't want to do that to your players. You won't want to deprive them of the opportunity to grow. It's too much to ask. It's such a big sacrifice. So we're opening the doors, as far as LaSalle is concerned, we're opening the doors for them to decide. And I think the other schools will do the same because, we want our players to grow. We want them to succeed in their careers. And if their pathway is basketball, we want to make sure that the opportunities are there for them to take advantage of because these guys are tremendous athletes. We don't want to hold them back. We want to see them fly. And if there are opportunities for them to grow and fly, I think us as mentors, we'd like those doors open for them to step in.
Yeah. So for the other players that aren't applying, that haven't like said it formally that they're applying for the draft, there's one name that we haven't talked about, and for me, he's a very intriguing name because I don't know if he's very known to casual basketball fans, but he was the NCAA MVP last season, Calvin Oftana, and he was also playing exceptionally well in that one game he played for Gilas against Thailand. And there are a lot of rumors swirling around if he's gonna come back to San Beda for his final playing year. Because I believe the NCAA has a bubble planned for this coming season for at least basketball, I believe. Or I'm not sure if it's also other sports. But with Calvin Oftana, people are saying that if he applies now, people are saying you should apply because you're coming from an MVP stint in the NCAA and then a Gila's spot with Coach Tab, and they're also saying that he could be a first round pick or a top 3 pick. But San Beda, I don't know who their core is when he comes back, if he comes back, because Evan left, and I don't know if James Kwekwete is gonna come back, and Donald's gone also. So, what's your thoughts on Calvin Oftana for this upcoming draft? Should he apply or not yet?
I think he's turning pro. I've been talking with some better friends, and I think his decision is he will also turn pro. As far as the NCAA bubble is concerned, they will need IATF approval for that, and they will also need CHED approval. So I don't think it's feasible, and I also don't think it's right for the NCAA schools to push sports when, as the Secretary of Education said, we can't have face-to-face classroom teaching. How can you, in conscience, allow face-to-face sports competitions? I mean, what are your priorities?
Exactly.
Yeah. So my personal feeling about that is that the NCAA should just not pursue it. I think the UAAP board is on the right track as far as its vision on sports this year and in the future. I think in the end, the NCAA will see the light. If you have a bubble for sports as they're considering, and they're saying that the hubs will be Mendiola and Intramuros. Can you imagine the risk to the student athletes? Even going from school to gym and back. Mendiola and Intramuros are traffic hubs. You can't control volume of people moving in and out in those areas. And first, I don't think it's practicable to do a bubble. Second, if they consider doing a closed circuit semi-bubble, meaning to say school, campus to gym and back, I'm not sure if that's feasible either.
It's difficult.
Especially since we're not dealing here with professionals. We're dealing here with student athletes. Some of them are in their teens, and they will need parental consent to be able to do that. I've seen the CHED guidelines, and there are restrictions for players who are less than 20. So if you're a player and you're less than 20 in a team, that disqualifies you from participating. What kind of a team will you have?
Voila.
I mean, why push it? Why push it? What's the point?
Yeah.
You're endangering the lives of these student athletes.
Yes.
For what? For what purpose? To satisfy a TV contract? I mean, it doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
where's your conscience?
Yeah.
If you're a school, you want to put priority to academics. You want to put priority to the safety of your students. You don't want to endanger them. You don't want to endanger the lives of students and put them at risk of infection. Any school official who is willing to take that risk should be shot, and should not be inoculated. And I think he doesn't deserve to be a school official.
Yeah.
Because that means he doesn't have a conscience.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree on that also because, yeah, I think Rebo Sagisag, he said in an interview that we shouldn't have games if there's no classes. Parang it's not logically correct to have sports.
I agree with the executive director of the UAAP, Attorney Rebo Sagisag, and that's also the same thinking of our education secretary, Mrs. Briones. So if we go. If we agree with that line of thinking, then it doesn't make sense for the NCAA to even consider putting up a bubble or a semi-bubble as early as March. In the first place, wala pa ngang IATF approval. Wala pa, and the approval is not for actual competition. The pending approval is for individual workouts. Wala pa ngang scrimmages.
Yeah, wala
Oh
pa.
my gosh.
Yeah, mahirap talaga. It's insurmountable. I feel it shouldn't happen there. And also, I agree with your point there.